I never thought Warner Brothers was even going to release this film, if I'm going to be honest. With the amount of delays this movie had, I thought this would never see the light of day. But now it's here. And after so many delays, yeah, it was alright. I'll get into it, but I thought it was alright. So Salem's Lot, I guess they wanted to remake it because, I don't know, the It movies were pretty popular, for all I care. I don't know. I don't know why they decided to remake it, but I am open to a remake. Because, it's been quite a while since, we got an adaptation, because apparently they made another one in 2004. I haven't seen it personally, because, to be quite frankly honest, I like the original from 1979. And with this one clocking in at just under 2 hours compared to the original at clocking in at over 3 hours, does that mean it's a good movie? Fuck! Now, obviously, I'm not going to let my opinion be swayed by, critics that consider themselves professionals, because I like to form my own opinion. Now, I'll get into the positives and negatives with this movie because, I do have issues with it, and there are big issues with it. And I'll get into those in just a second, but it is disappointing to see that not a whole lot of people like this film. But I'm gonna sway people to try and watch this film. Now, this is gonna be both a positive and a negative, but I figured I'd just start with the one thing that I'm just split down the middle with, because again, this is the person who directed this, Gary Dauberman. He made, he was part of the Conjuring series, so which means you're gonna get a lot of jump scares that consist of this, for example. Boo, Mommy! And this. And this. And this.
Stop it. Stop.
I think you get the point. The jump scares can get annoying in those movies, especially the Conjuring movies. They're cheap. They're lazy. They are not good jump scares in my opinion. They are essentially the fart jokes of horror movies. But with this movie, this has both good and bad jump scares. I'm going to get into the positives as briefly as I can, but the one that I'm kind of mixed on are the jump scares. There are some solid ones, but again, since it's from the same guy that did the Conjuring movies, there also are the cheap, stinky ones that literally are just the fart jokes of horror movies. Now, with the jump scares obviously being hit or miss, the movie for the most part has a really decent atmosphere. It's nothing crazy or anything, but it has a really good atmosphere. The cast also does a pretty decent job. I would say the main character, Lewis Pullman, that plays the character Ben, he does a really good job. Everyone else, they also do an admirable job. Nothing Oscar worthy, but definitely, no one's half-assing it. Nothing feels half-assed in terms of production value. And also, I'm just going to say, the movie's just tons of fun. Even though this review is coming out on Halloween, I would highly encourage people to watch this with a group of friends. It's a fun movie to watch with a group of friends, and just late at night, it's a really fun movie to watch at that time. The movie, this kind of leans into the negative side, which I will get more into, in just a bit, but the pacing, it feels tight. Like I said, this movie is under 2 hours, and at no point do you feel the length. The movie never feels boring. It does constantly move, and it does transition, but here's where we get to the negatives. Again, I will get into that in just a bit, but it has a really good pace, in my opinion. None of it feels boring. Despite the slow build-up, the finale of this movie, it does deviate from the novel if you have read it, like I have. Haven't read it in a bit, but I do know the deviations, particularly near the end, where the final battle takes place in a drive-in movie theater. This just has to add on to the fun element, because it is just a really, just overall fun, action-packed finale, which I can't really say anything bad about it. But here's where the positives. Now bringing it all home with the negatives with this movie, just to bring back the jump scares point. There are jump scares in this movie that, unfortunately, a small handful of them, but a decent number to make you realize, oh, these are not very good jump scares. These are literally the definition of boo scares, where you don't feel properly built up, so when the jump scare happens, you're either nonchalant about it or you're just rather annoyed. And despite me having like praise that the movie is under 2 hours, and it's a really fast-paced film, which is nice, and it's very tight too. It's a very tight film, but because of its very short runtime, you know, it you can't help but also feel like the movie feels rushed. And also, it doesn't really help the fact that despite this being fairly faithful to the novel, it really does jump straight into the vampire attacks more. And even though it has like a slow build up to that finale, by that end, you're just like, I feel like I've seen, like, you just feel exhausted. It just feels like the same old stuff you've been seeing. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. Like I said, the finale and the movie is tons of fun, but because of its very quick runtime, and it tries to do a slow build up, but it jumps in a way straight into the vampire stuff, it's not a good balance, so by the time you get to those moments, it just, in a way, feels unearned. Now, I may not have said a whole lot regarding the negatives with this film, but those are the big ones that I wanted to push because they are big ones and they do, in a way, bog the film down. I do want to bring up, if you are familiar with the original, obviously original book, but also the original 1979 film, or miniseries, I guess you can call it, similar to the It miniseries from the 90s. The um the vampire, I'm trying to think of his name. Oh my god. I almost said Bram Stoker's Dracula, but that's clearly not the case. But it does look like him. It does look like Nosferatu, especially in the 79 film. And similar to the 79 film, Kurt Barlow. Kurt Barlow, that's his name. That's the vampire's name, believe it or not, Kurt Barlow. It looks similar to the original, but it also, for little screen time that he has in this, his presence isn't bad, but also just the makeup and the look of him. I'm not disappointed, but I am significantly underwhelmed the way they made him look. Now, I haven't read the original book in a while, so I'm not sure if it's accurate to how he looked in the novel, but I am going to say it is significantly more underwhelming than I was anticipating, but that's just a minor nitpick. And again, little screen time. I will also bring up, despite me praising the finale, the finale also has a underwhelming sense, or even anticlimactic. The movie kind of has an anticlimactic end to it. Even the way they just kill off Kurt Barlow in the end, it's just kind of like, oh, that was fast. And it almost just seems like they're building up to a big final battle, but it happens for maybe a couple of minutes, but then when you think it's going to get even, in a way, up the ante a little bit, it just kind of ends. So, I guess that's another big negative I have about the film. The movie just kind of has an anticlimactic feel to it, but I feel like that's on par with a lot of Stephen King novels. In a lot of Stephen King stories in general, they have anticlimactic feels to them. But it's just an okay horror film, a fun, entertaining horror movie to watch on Halloween night, just to throw that movie idea out there for tonight, for obvious reasons. But anyway, with that being said, check out my other Halloween movie reviews, which I did publish throughout this month, just for the sake of, just wanted to, vomit out a bunch of horror movie, Halloween related reviews, just like similar to last year. So go ahead and enjoy those other reviews. I'm not sure in terms of how many other reviews I'm going to be popping out. Oh my god, I started there for a second. I'm not sure how many other new movie reviews I'll be putting out there, but just for the sake of the Halloween reviews, this is obviously coming out just on the 31st of this month. So enjoy my other reviews that I worked on throughout the month. Some of them I worked pretty hard on, some of them I did not because it was late at night. But with that being said, have fun, and that's about it. See ya.